When I was younger, I did gymnastics for about 5 or 6 years. I wanted to go to the Olympics like any little gymnast would. But we moved from Minnesota to South Carolina. Probably the hardest thing, honestly, besides leaving my family, was leaving my team, because I loved it and I really wanted to go to the Olympics. I thought it was something that was really going to happen. So I did Krav Maga for about a year. The second year into doing Krav Maga, they got a jiu-jitsu instructor. So I started doing jiu-jitsu competitions also and got better at that. And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at some of the striking that I do in Krav Maga, and I do good with the jiu-jitsu, so I'm going to combine them and do MMA.
I first seen it on TV, my father was watching it, and I was like, this is insane. I thought it was illegal, when I first seen it. But one of my wrestling coaches was training at the time. When I started training with him, I started getting hooked. So I ended up going to the gym with him one day, and it was a wrap.
One of the biggest problems in mixed martial arts nowadays is concussions, and them not being recognized as concussions.
I don't want to have any kind of injury that's going to affect me for the rest of my life.
A serious injury would be one of my main concerns.
I love what I do, and I don't want to have to stop doing what I do.
I work in the medical field, so seeing people with significant concussion, traumatic head injury, that's really concerning as a mom.
While injuries do occur in mixed martial arts and such combat arts, the true risk of overall injury is actually substantially lower. You get multiple concussive injuries during football, multiple concussive injuries during soccer. That's really not the case in MMA. While you still are at risk of injury from those blows, which stop the fight, you still have had a preemptive impact test before fight and then after fight to measure the effect of any potential blow to close head trauma. There are very few sports where that is in place.
When officiating a fight, what's paramount is athlete safety. First thing you're looking at is you're studying the rules of the engagement and the protection and safety of the athletes or combatants that are engaged in the event. A red flag for myself or any official within a bout is when an athlete can no longer intelligently defend themselves. Most officials will tell you that the stand-up part's a lot easier than the submission part. That's why it's very vital that most officials have training in grappling and submission arts.
UMMAF and UMMAF have both done an extraordinary job of delivering a uniform message to referees regards to danger points for athletes in the ring.
The UMMAF definitely have advanced officials. I remember getting caught standing up, and I remember my back being against the cage, and I'm weaving and ducking punches and end up getting clipped again. I don't even know how, but we ended up on the ground. And I remember the guy being on top, and I remember the bell getting rung and the round got over. So, I sit up, I remember sitting up, and my vision is blurred, but I got up and made it to the stool, and the doctor asked me to stand up, and he came in, he's like, hey, what's your name? Where you from? Asking these questions, where are you? Asking these questions, and I guess I was slow to answer. And then he was like, yeah, it's done. At the time, I wasn't too happy about the doctor stopping it, but now I see that it was a good call.
I actually pray for my opponent and me for safety before each fight, because I don't want to hurt someone permanently, just like I don't want to be hurt permanently. I've had a situation in a jiu-jitsu tournament where the girl was almost choked out, but she couldn't really tap and the ref didn't see it. So I had to let her go because I didn't want to choke her out, because I knew she was trying to tap. I know that the UMMAF officials are trained really well, so that actually makes me feel way better, because they're trained to be able to see a situation and be able to detect if the person is in danger, to where they can't keep going. It makes me feel way better, because I definitely want to be kept safe, even in a violent sport.
UMMAF has really done a lot to ensure amateur MMA fighter safety, which is comforting as a mom, very much so.
Getting amateur MMA into the Olympic Games is vitally important because it would protect everybody and ensure a standardization globally for these athletes in amateur MMA.
If you look at every other sport, they're in the Olympics. Basketball, baseball. If it's a major sport, for the most part, it's in the Olympics. Getting MMA into the Olympics is going to create funding opportunities for up-and-coming athletes, because as the sport grows, so does the base of people who participate in the sport.
We've got to build a platform. For us to sustain being approved as an Olympic sport, there's certain requirements, and we have to already have a platform. You don't just say, hey, we want to put this together. It can't be an idea, so it's got to be a completely fundamentally operating international endeavor with support to be able to be recognized as an Olympic sport. And that's currently one of our main objectives through UMMAF, our international partner.
The athletes in the Olympics are phenomenal, man. The opportunity to be the best in the world at an amateur level is amazing, and hopefully we can have the same for MMA.
To have the ability to go to the Olympics as an MMA fighter instead of as a gymnast like I dreamed of when I was younger, as a woman in the career of MMA, it's a dream come true, really. It's something that I never thought would be possible, but now that it's a possibility, I want to help do everything I can to get MMA in the Olympics, because it's an amazing sport, it's a difficult sport, it deserves to be in the Olympics.
If I can go to the Olympics with MMA, that would be a dream come true.
It's tough for us as an organization to have these athletes come through our national championship tournament, work their butts off, train hard, be prepared, win out through multiple days tournaments, fighting multiple days in a row. And their reward after they become a national champion is to now fund their progress on the international level. They have to self-fund it because there's no funding available to them. That's tough to swallow. The problem that we face is that we're heavily underfunded, so these athletes are having to fund themselves because there's no national protection here in the United States currently. It's a very expensive venture to compete internationally, and it's very tough to get funding for amateur mixed martial arts. Candidly, it's not a good feeling when we go to these events and we're so underfunded and we see these other nations who have national funding for their amateur MMA teams and we do not, and it's almost embarrassing. We get there, we don't have the proper gear, we don't have team uniforms, we don't have the just basic things that make us look like an organization that should be representing the United States. With proper funding, we could do a lot of things for other athletes who normally wouldn't be able to compete. We've got very underprivileged athletes who are some of the best natural athletes in the world who can't afford the proper training within mixed martial arts or be able to compete because it's expensive. Even on the local level, to compete on a local amateur show, it's expensive. There's minimum medical requirements, there's minimum training requirements, and there's a lot of things that an athlete needs to do to be safe to compete in amateur MMA. With proper funding, one of our initiatives is to implement standardized rules and regulations nationwide for amateur MMA and protect these athletes that just is heavily underfunded currently and improperly regulated. Another thing we'd like to do is be proactive in educating these coaches and educating athletes on what they should be doing and looking for in training as well. UMMAF is a 501c3 nonprofit organization specifically for the needs of amateur mixed martial artists here in the United States. Our athletes need help funding basic medical necessities as far as blood work, physicals, travel expenses, coaching, all the expenses that are required for them to be able to compete as a minimum level as an amateur, and it's even more advanced and expensive as they advance onto the international platform. We could really use your help. Every dollar counts. Visit our website, ummaf.org, for more information on donations.
My ultimate dream is to become a UFC champion. That is my ultimate dream.
I want to go to the UFC. I want to be the UFC champion, so however I can get there. And UMMAF has helped a lot.